Have you ever heard about a death that just didn't quite add up? One that really defied any simple explanation? Well, today we're diving into a pretty provocative framework from the work of Kandayia Ali. It suggests that some deaths are not at all what they seem on the surface. We're about to get into the concept of spiritual assassination.
And this, right here, is the central mystery that kicks this whole thing off. When a death happens without any physical trace, without a suspect you can point to, the source material asks this one chilling question: where are the fingerprints?
We're talking about the kinds of deaths that get officially stamped as natural causes, or a tragic accident, or maybe a sudden, unexpected medical crisis. But this framework we're exploring today asks a pretty critical question. What if there's another layer to it all, an unseen mechanism at play?
So this brings us to the core concept of this entire explainer, a term that really sits at the very heart of this whole perspective.
It's called spiritual assassination. Now, according to the source, this is the deliberate use of dark, esoteric practices to end someone's life, but in a way that leaves behind zero physical proof. I know, it's a really heavy concept, so to really get our heads around it, let's break down the alleged methods.
The article lays out 6 distinct methods, or as it calls them, invisible weapons, that are supposedly used in these soul-targeted deaths. So let's walk through each one so we can really understand the mechanics that are being described here.
Okay, so the first method, this one is all about a slow, methodical depletion.
And the source describes it with this incredibly poetic but chilling metaphor: death by 1,000 invisible cuts. So this isn't about one single blow, you see, but a long, almost imperceptible process.
This method is called energetic draining. The idea is that it involves this prolonged siphoning of a person's life force. I mean, imagine a kind of spiritual burnout that goes so deep that it actually starts to manifest physically as chronic illness or even organ failure. The source also specifically points out that empaths and healers are often the targets here.
So we go from that slow external drain to the second method, which is more of a sudden internal breakdown.
Wow. I mean, this quote just perfectly captures the essence of this next method, doesn't it? It suggests this profound disconnect between the soul and the physical body, and it's all caused by immense psychological pain.
This one's called psychospiritual fragmentation. The idea here is that some kind of severe trauma or betrayal or deep humiliation can actually fracture a person's sense of self so completely that their soul essentially dislodges from the body. And the source makes a really critical distinction here. It calls this an energetic eviction, not a personal choice.
The third method. This one moves away from personal trauma and introduces this really chilling element of predetermination and ritualistic timing.
So, the theory here is that some deaths are actually pre-planned, maybe through things like generational curses or rituals that were performed at birth. The person's death then happens at a very specific, ceremonially or astrologically significant time. The argument is that the timing is just, well, it's too precise to be just a random coincidence.
Okay, now for the fourth method. This one brings a surprisingly modern, even technological element into this very esoteric framework.
This is where unseen technology is allegedly combined with harmful intent. The source lists some theoretical tools, like scalar beams or electromagnetic frequency interference, that could be used to trigger cardiac events or other medical crises, which of course are then just recorded as natural deaths.
Method number 5 is, well, it's maybe the most unsettling. It explores the concept of an outside force taking over a person from the inside. This describes a scenario where an external entity allegedly takes control of a person's body, which then leads to these drastic personality shifts and really self-destructive behaviors. The source suggests that detecting something like this requires a level of spiritual awareness that just goes way beyond our normal physical senses.
And finally, we come to the sixth method. This one focuses on the insidious power of suggestion, but played out over a very long time.
The source uses such a powerful metaphor here, calling it the work of a spiritual sniper. This is not a sudden attack. It's a slow, patient process of psychological erosion that could be working for decades.
The idea here is that a person's internal dialogue, that little voice in your head, is slowly hijacked by these implanted negative beliefs. Things like, you're a burden, or you'll never heal. And over years, these beliefs just weaken the soul until the body follows what the source calls the script, leading to what's officially classified as a suicide. Okay, so after laying out these 6 potential threats,
The article naturally pivots to the most crucial question of all, right? What can be done? How can a person possibly defend themselves against forces that are supposedly invisible?
Well, the source provides what it calls a spiritual defense kit. It's a set of 5 powerful practices that are aimed at reinforcing your spiritual sovereignty and, protecting your personal energy.
Let's just walk through these steps together. First up is daily energetic maintenance, things like aura cleansing. Second is engaging in ancestral healing to close off any inherited vulnerabilities. Third is to consciously revoke any old agreements or vows you might have made. Fourth is to actively call on divine protection. And finally, number 5, using the power of your own voice to declare your sovereignty out loud.
And now, to make all of this information truly personal, the source wraps up with a series of really powerful reflection prompts. This is basically an invitation to turn inward and to see if any of these patterns resonate in your own life.
So the first question to ask yourself is this: where have I seen patterns of invisible draining in my own life? Just take a second and think about times you felt deeply weakened or just totally depleted without any clear physical cause.
Okay, next reflect on this one. Have I ever felt my spirit fragmenting under pressure? In those moments of extreme crises, have you ever felt like you were just losing your core sense of who you are? And what was the catalyst?
Now take a look at your family line. Do you see any reoccurring patterns of tragedy or illness or untimely death that feel almost, scripted? The source frames these as potential death contracts.
This next one is all about your inner dialogue. What beliefs might be programming you from a place of despair? What kind of self-limiting thoughts have you held onto that subtly agree with a sense of hopelessness?
And finally, after all of that deep reflection, we have this empowering call to action. How can you call your soul back to its full power on a daily basis? What's one practice you can adopt starting today to strengthen your core self and reclaim your energy? And we'll end on this final, powerful line from the source. Destiny hasn't given permission to fall. It's such a great reminder that regardless of any unseen forces, there's a deeper strength and a deeper purpose at your core. That is a powerful thought to hold on to. Thank you for joining me for this explainer.